Welcome to Warblog. Today we're going to look at the Calaber to Port Harcourt scenario. Now I made this scenario up, but I said I was going to do it. And I'm getting quite excited about it really, because it's sort of building up a set, and there isn't any ready source to sort of get the full dynamics of the Nigerian Civil War together. Most of these scenarios come from the articles, but what I did sort of get was, obviously, if you've been following this, I did the advance on Aber, and then when I read a bit more into it, I realised they were going to Owerri. So let's just have a look at Aber. Obviously very small, so they're going up to this little place. And then what we did, we found that Owerri was actually the bigger picture. So there's Aber under there, I think. So that other scenario was this square here, going from here to there. But we realised it's part of a bigger picture. So, oh, that looks grand. But then when you actually look at the capture of Port Harcourt, well, there's Port Harcourt, and Aber and Owerri are sort of up here. I mean, they're probably a bit further up here. So what I really need to, the next one to do is Port Harcourt basically to Aber, and that will complete the whole chain. But this is where it gets interesting. There's more to it, because obviously they capture Calaber, and so there's the Calaber to Port Harcourt. Now this is the same as this. So if you look at this, pay attention to it, there's that river, and we've sort of got them along here. When you look at the Calaber to Port Harcourt, there's that river there. So that scenario is like there. So what they're actually doing is coming from Calaber. And it all starts to fit together, because I thought, hang on, I've sort of seen this before. And just to put extra cherries on the extra cherry cake, we've got Bonny Island down here. Now in that other scenario I didn't have anything coming from the south. It all makes sense very shortly. Now obviously we've got the, let's look at the Nigerian police action actually, because here's the whole thing. There's Calaber, there's Port Owerri, there's Port Harcourt, there's Aber, there's Owerri. So it all fits together pretty amazingly. So this is their police action, but this isn't what I was trying to tell you about. So obviously we've got a big picture here. We've got the whole Biafra nation here, and we've got these key places that we've been putting bits of jigsaw together, and I didn't know that Aber was such a significant, or it's going to lead on to so many bits coming together. We won't talk about the Biafran offensive at this moment, but here, the Operation Tiger Claw. This is actually the capture of Calaber. I didn't know it. I mean, I did, because I did it, but I hadn't realised, because it was called Operation Tiger Claw, which is what it's called. There's a Wikipedia link to it. But it's actually Nigerian forces carry a naval assault on Calaber after landing at Bonny Island. So essentially they land at Bonny Island. They land at Bonny Island, they capture it, and there's Bonny Island. And so you start to sort of get this massive sort of, and they do this really interestingly. And I'm not going to bother with all the stories, because obviously it's all sort of, well, not so much written there, but I'm pretty sure I did a video on this and marvelled at how excellent it was. So essentially they capture Bonny Island, and then they go a bit further around. They use Bonny Island as a staging point to get to Calaber. They take out Calaber, and then they move on to Port Harcourt, and then they go through to Aber and Owerri. And so again, looking at the overall map, we can see Now, what we can't see on here is Bonny Island. It's not on there, and this I think was because it was a much earlier game before I did Bonny Island. So really, I should put Bonny Island in here because it's probably just there. I could probably rename that or maybe add it in here. It doesn't really matter. It's just a feature that that could do well with being put in there, just so that we've got all the references. So essentially, what happened after Awari, I don't know. And the only other thing to put it into complete perspective is the Biafran offensive, which took place on the 9th of August, and this is basically when the Biafrans moved into this part of Nigeria. They go do it with little resistance, mainly because they sent all the troops back to basically their hometowns. And so, because not a lot of the troops came from these places, something along those lines, there was nothing there. This is how they made so much ground. But that's not what I'm talking about now. All I'm really trying to say is that it all starts to fit together. And because of that, I'm quite excited about the whole sort of progress, really, because you sort of think, well, that's learning things, and that's what it's all about. And I know there's a book on Nigerian Civil War, which I've mentioned a few times, which I can never remember, but it's by someone like Lakar. It's a really good one, but it's way too expensive. When I say way too expensive, I think they want like £20 or £30 for it. And I never buy books for that much money, especially when I can research. I was looking at the Times thing, which I've shown a few times already. It's still the same article, but it's actually got the things up there, so you can actually go into here. So we're looking for the 68 period, 67. Biafra claims British Navy. There's loads of information here, and I've said this a few times, but this is how history is resourced. This is how people find out about history. This is a primary source because there is no sort of ABC book on the Nigerian Civil War that's readily available. A lot of the books that do come out, I've said this a few times, that they're just relatively boring, sort of anecdotal stories. I was in the catering corps in the Nigerian Civil War, and here's my list of recipes. So I'm like, no, that's not what I was really expecting from the memoirs of a Biafran soldier, whatever. The Ministry of Defence in London has denied that any Royal Navy men were serving with the Nigerian Navy. However, a spokesman said that no track could be kept of the activities of any retired naval men acting as private citizens. He was referring to claims made in Port Harcourt by Captain Anuku, commander of the Biafran Navy, that 5 members of the Royal Navy had been killed in naval engagements in the Bonny Channel. The report from Biafra named the British dead as whatever, and the government of Biafra denied that federal Nigerian troops had reached Port Harcourt airstrip, and said that townsfolk and foreign correspondents had visited the airstrip to verify this fact. Federal troops 30 miles northeast of Port Harcourt did not constitute a threat to the city or airport. This is obviously before they lost Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt, 14th of May, artillery and heavy machine gun fire heard to the northeast. So we know they're coming from the northeast, which is interesting. Of Port Harcourt during the weekend died away yesterday. Tension among civilians relaxed and life went back to normal with shops, markets and hotels open. The city commandant told reporters that Nigerian troops had made incursions last week into the Ogoni division bordering the Port Harcourt district, but had been pushed back with heavy losses. He said that there was no threat to the city, etc., etc. Sometimes you get really interesting little other things. Anyway, I'm not going to hang around much more on this because I just want to just get into playing this a bit. So essentially, if you read the Tiger Claw thing, both what I've written and probably more importantly the Wikipedia, it's got quite an interesting sort of, it's only one big paragraph, but basically they were defending with the with the 9th, the 9th Battalion, and then they wanted to reinforce with the 33rd Battalion, but they refused. The small but stubborn battalion resistance was overwhelmed. Oh no, that's the Nigerian 33rd. That's the Nigerian. We're talking about the Biafran. Blah blah blah. OG was seriously wounded during the fighting and evacuated to wherever, while his outnumbered troops retreated to a new defensive position on the outskirts of Calaber. The lieutenant replaced the other guy and decided that he would not counterattack until he was reinforced by the Biafran 7th Battalion under the command of someone else. The 7th Battalion at first refused to embark to Calaber because their machine guns had been sent to Biafran troops fighting against Major whatever, and they had been left with single-shot bolt-action rifles. It's a bit Soviet, really, or after the Leningrad or wherever it is, where they don't have enough rifles. And they're sharing rifles, they're sharing machine guns. I'd like to know where they are fighting. I can't read. The reason I'm skipping these names is because I can't see the screen. I can pretty much get the basic words, but this is Muhammadu Buhari. So this is probably fighting elsewhere. But where? Was there a front to the north? I don't know. You see, that's what I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to maybe find out. But anyway, the point is they've got 2 battalions there, and but they also have, after the 7th finally accepted the task. You see, these are the secrets to war. I mean, you can have fantastic strategies, but if your battalion doesn't want to turn up for work because they've got crappy guns, that even Napoleon would have problems. After the 7th Battalion finally accepted the task, on October 19th, the Biafran 7th Battalion arrived in Calaber, and they met they were met by Nigerian armoured cars, which they had no answer to. In the face of the imminent devastation, Ojukwu said recently conscripted white mercenaries to Calaber, but they came under immediate heavy Nigerian fire. After suffering unusually high casualties, the remaining mercenaries retreated north and fled Biafra, never to return. And we've actually got them. We've got the white mercenaries there, Mercenary Infantry Company. Special forces, they come on turn 11, get completely destroyed and run away and never come back again. I think, these are little things that you sort of pick up on. So there we have that story of there. So what we've got here is the Nigerian 33rd Battalion and the 8th Battalion. And we've got the remains there of the 7th Battalion for the Biafrans and the 9th Battalion. And the secret to this game is that when they take Calaber, that they don't instantly start marching along this road. I think they take Calaber in. Is there a date on here? It just says 1967, but this is 1968. You see, so they take Calaber, I think, in sort of October, November. Yeah, October they take it, and so it's not until next year that they actually continue with their offensive. You know, so they regroup. So this is basically, we're saying this is the position after. It's all a bit messed up really at the time, but the time scales. But what I've done to reflect the fact that you can't necessarily go in for an immediate attack is I've delayed everything, so things start coming on sort of turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and I'm going to a spoiler because there are no spoilers in this game, but it is a sort of, I do these things sometimes I've done it on a few games where I've set things up and they're particularly, I don't want to say obnoxious in their arrangement, they're particularly sort of, you know, they're almost like deliberately placed there to check whether you're thinking. What I'm getting to here is I have put some more. On turn 8 you get your engineers. So basically you really shouldn't be doing anything until turn 8. And you think, well, why shouldn't you be doing anything until turn 8? Well, basically there's one bridge, so they can't actually cross the river. Now they've got these marines, and I can never remember whether marines can cross rivers. Maybe they can. But basically you really got to wait until turn 8. You might be able to go and fight that, come up round here, and also remember this is all marsh, so you can't actually get your motorized things through there. And also the other thing that I think is really interesting, because I know when we did the other one, Capture of Port Harcourt, it says they were attacking them from 3 sides, and I thought, well, what did they do? They come from here, from the north. What they do? Come all the way around here? Well, no, obviously they've got something coming up from Bonny Island, but it's not a lot. So it's interesting because you've got this sort of force down here. It's not big, but you can't just move everything out of Port Harcourt. And so you've got this really interesting sort of, I don't know, strategic position here that I think is, you know, again, when you take into account all the other things I've said, is actually quite interesting. Little Parrot Island. So let's just play it. I've also put in aircraft, but I gave them how to build these new air defense units. I'm just going to test something. Yeah, they can go across the river because they're marines. But I'm not sure that the marines really want to sort of slap themselves on the other side of the river and then find they don't have any support. But there isn't much to attack them. But we've got a nice big stack there. Well, not so big. We've got some sort of units there. I've deliberately tried to keep it quite sparse, but I might give the Biafrans more. I just get a feeling that, to be quite honest, I can probably. So what's he got in there? 1, 2, 3 big ones. Okay, I'm not going to do any air attacks. Oh, I might as well actually. Let's blow everything. Let's just attack all these units. Okay. So the Biafrans, what can they actually do? They're obviously going to suffer there if they don't try and get out, but we could possibly attack these units. What I'd like to do is to bring at least put these air defense units in range of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should put him there, but let's make it even easier. Okay, so we've got some artillery. I think what I'd like to do here. I'm going to pull these back. Okay. I don't know what to do. I feel like putting more Biafran units on because they're just going to get blown up. Wouldn't surprise me if we get some routes. At least we've got our air defense in position. It's not doing anything, but it would be nice if we shot something down. Routed. Let's just do it. 3-1 DR. Definitely need more Biafran units. I might just attack them again. Yep. Because they're only going to get even more. I mean, they could probably win with what they've got there. I'm sure we've got some artillery somewhere. Can we hit anything with that? No. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm tired, and I'm not happy with the weak state of the Biafrans because I know that the Nigerians is going to get a hell of a lot, and it could be really, to be quite honest, that I significantly underestimated the balance because they don't have anything else, and they get some reinforcements, but I think it's really sort of like the equivalent of 2 battalions worth, which is nothing. I mean, by the time they come on turn 8, everything here on the board will be dead. So I'm going to leave it at that. I might play this again. It is an enjoyable game, but I'm sort of feeling the effects of needing to sleep and the frustration of trying to figure out where the game balance needs adjusting. In particular with regards to these Marines, I mean, they're just going to be able to go straight across these little river things. It'd be interesting to play it actually as it was or as it is, sort of properly, because it still takes time. I mean, you could sort of say, well, can I do it within 6 turns or something? And you've got to remember that they didn't actually quite do it like this because they had quite a few months before they moved from consolidating around Calaber to advancing on Port Harcourt. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I might play this again later, but I'm gonna use whatever mental energy I've got now to actually adjust the game. I would pause it, adjust it, and come back and start a game, but there's no way. So I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.